Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Ultimate Arsenal by Jeffery H. Haskell, narrated by Emily Beresford. Chapter 1. Category 5 hurricanes are rare, at least the ones that hit land. In over 100 years of hurricane tracking, only 5 of the mega-powerful storms have ever hit the land. I'm no meteorologist, but I understand thermodynamics and physics. The energy source of a hurricane is the warm water underneath it, combined with the dry air above it. Once the storm hits land, that energy source is gone, which is why there aren't hurricanes in Iowa. This particular monster of a storm is currently pummeling New Orleans, and it's only the outer edges. 160-mile-an-hour winds decimate anything that isn't nailed down, including yours truly. I'm flying over Kenner, which is east of the city proper. Epic located a distress signal from an apartment building right off the main street. I'm having trouble getting to it because of the wind. I hit the ground feet first and immediately crouch, digging my hands into the pavement and using them like pitons. Amelia, the winds have pushed past 180. Short controllable flights will not be possible. You could push through it, but you would have to use full power, and there would be no way to be precise. Roger that, buddy, I say. The suit dampens the noise from the gale, but it still sounds like a runaway freight train. The street I'm on is 1 block away from the Austin Jones retirement villa. Even crouched, I feel the resistance. I'm gonna need some assistance here. Sword! 3 feet of black-bladed doom slides out from a panel above my wrist. The sword isn't actually stored there. It's just made to look that way, so no one knows I'm really using the alien metal known as animetal to form my suit. If they did, the government would try to take it away, and I can't have that. I swing the blade up, then down, slamming a foot of the diamond-coated edge into the ground with the flat part facing me. Here goes nothing, I say as I pull myself forward. I repeat it, but it's agonizingly slow. 200 miles per hour, Amelia. This may be the most powerful storm in recorded history. Great. My lucky day. My kinetic shields are under constant battering from the tiny pieces of debris that move at deadly force. The sword works as an anchor. However, it's taking too long. Time for Plan B. I let the blade retract and then lie down face first on the pavement. Once I'm on the ground, I kick in the M drive. Amelia, this is a bad idea. Sparks fly as the suit slides across the ground. For a moment, the roar of the wind is drowned out by the punishment my suit takes, as a layer of topcoat is scoured right off. Brakes! I yell. I hit the curb, pop up, and slam right through the boarded-up front door of the retirement home. Wood and water rain down around me as I hit the lobby wall and fall to the floor. What the hell is wrong with you? An old woman in a shawl says as she waves a cane at me. You could have killed someone. Sorry, I say as I climb to my feet. Epic, tell Kate we're here. 2 seconds later, my best friend appears with a pop of displaced air. Air Kate, fastest delivery service in the world, at your service, she says with a smile. She's dressed in her protector costume, all black, with a bazillion gadgets and weapons, and her eye mask. Is there anyone else here? I ask the woman. You call this a rescue? 2 children breaking down a perfectly good door? We'd have better luck waiting out the storm. Damn fool, Peter. I told him not to call anyone. Kate shoots me a grin and rolls her eyes. I can't help but giggle. Ma'am, Kate says in her I'm not using my powers tone. Is there anyone else here? What? Oh, yeah, we're all here. It was my idea, she says proudly. Wait out the storm like every other time. But no, that damn fool Peter is a coward. She yells the last part up the stairs to our right. Amelia, several stations are reporting multiple levees are on the verge of failure. We do not have much time. I'll go upstairs, you take her, I tell Kate as I run for the stairs with M-drive-assisted leaps. Take me where, young lady? I'll have you know that. Whatever she was about to say is cut off by a pop as Kate teleports her out of harm's way. I'm halfway up the stairs when Kate reappears behind me. We hit the 2nd floor, and I hear my best friend mutter a curse. We'd already worked for the last 8 hours on evacuation, and we're running close to the ragged edge of exhaustion. Looking at 30 people gathered together in a huddle in the middle of the common room wasn't encouraging. "You have no idea how tired I am," she muttered as she brushed past me. "A little," I replied. "Who's Peter?" she asks. An elderly man with a walker raises his hand. "Good job calling for help," I say to him. He smiles at that. "You'd probably be fine normally, but this is a really bad storm." "You want to say bad one more time?" Kate says over her shoulder. "Quiet, you! Start getting these people out of here." She goes to work, touching 2 people and then vanishing with them, only to reappear a moment later. Rapid teleportation exhausts her. Rapid teleportation with multiple people on each trip is downright grueling. The building runs north to south, and the storm is bearing down on us from the east. I put myself, and therefore my armor, between them and the closest window, and run full power on shields. It's dark outside, but with all the different vision mods, it really doesn't have much effect on me. Time ticks by. Every 5 seconds, she moves another group out. After the 7th group, she reappears, falling to her knees and gasping for breath. She grabs my hand and holds for a second. "This isn't as easy as it looks," she says. "Hang in there. Take a second," I tell her. The storm is only getting worse, and every time there is a gust of wind, the building shakes and rattles. Every 30 seconds, a really strong gust hits it, and the people we're rescuing let out a scream. The power shuts off with a click, and they shout in surprise. "Epic, external LEDs, please," I ask. Lights around the suit flare to life, illuminating the room better than the overhead ones did. "That's a handy suit," Peter says. "Thanks, I built it myself." Kate pulls herself up, gives me a pat, and walks over to do the next group. A pop later, and they're gone. I glance out the window, really out of boredom. I don't expect to see anything, except I do. Across the street, a van shakes as the rear doors open and a masked man jumps out. He shoots a line into the pillar between a pair of doors of the building they're parked by. Next, he uses the rope to guide and pulls himself hand over hand until he's against the door. 5 more fools follow suit. 3 more pops behind me, and we're down to 10 people. Epic, are they seriously robbing that bank in the middle of a hurricane? It would appear so. Morons, I mutter. What are the chances of them killing anyone in the process? Slim, there shouldn't be anyone there. However, it is not only a bank. It is a private deposit firm with multiple vaults and safety deposit sections. If they are robbing it, they are likely after private property, not the insured money. Dang it, I say. I glance behind me. 2 more trips for Kate. Then I'm going to have to go out there and do something. If it were just a bank robbery, I'd let it go. But it's more than money. There could be family treasures, works of art. Who knows what's stashed in there? Thank you, Arsenal, Peter says with a held-out hand. I turn, mildly surprised, and reach out to take his. You're welcome. Kate appears one last time. The lines on her face are noticeable, and she's covered in a sheen of sweat. She falls against Peter and another man who both reach out to hold her up. Take care, I tell them. They vanish, cradling Kate between them. Epic, inform Carlos of Kate's position and her need to rest. Also let him know I'm checking out this robbery. Will do. I love having Epic in the suit with me. Too many times in the past we were cut off from one another. No more. With the lights out over the whole city, I cranked up the low lights and zoom in. Where I had seen them a minute before, there was now a hole in the metal gate the bank used to shield itself from looters during the storm. I take a couple of steps back for a running start and dive toward the window. It explodes outward as I accelerate through it. Stupid strong winds batter me aside as soon as I'm in the open. I roll over several times before slamming into the ground and sliding along the pavement. Brilliant flying. Everyone's a critic, I mutter as I drag myself up. The building is only a few feet away, and I flatten myself against the outer wall. With the building behind me, the wind isn't so bad, and I make my way to the front door. Epic scans the van and doesn't find any heat signatures present. The van itself has stabilizers planted on the ground to keep it from rocking in the wind. This wasn't random. They were planning this for a hurricane. Awesome. I reach the doorway and peek my head around the corner. The lobby is clear, and I can see the residual heat of a plasma torch hole cut through the door leading to the vaults. Amelia, the U.S. Army engineers are broadcasting a mayday. The levees will not last much longer. I glance out the street, where there's probably 4 inches of water built up already. If the levees give, they'll add a good 10 feet, and this will all be underwater. Great. Just great. I turned the corner, ducked through the hole they burned, and walked through the lobby to the next hole. The lobby is a work of art, with marble pillars, vaulted ceilings, and stone facade on the walls. It's considerably quieter inside, and it's a relief from the wind and the pounding rain. If it wasn't for the certain knowledge of imminent flooding and property damage, this wouldn't be that bad of a storm. Voices from the next room float through the hole. I press against the doorframe, kneel down, and look through. 6 men in vaguely tactical gear huddled around a vault as they try to burn it open, but not with a torch like I thought. One of them is emitting a plasma from his fingers. He's slowly running his hand down the vault door along the seam. The metal on either side glows from the massive amounts of heat required to turn hardened steel into slag. I run down a list of my available weapons, which is all of them. This suit is my most powerful ever built, designed it to face off against Ark and the safety force. I took them all down. 6 idiots robbing a bank shouldn't be a problem. Swinging around the door, I hold my hands out and arm IP cannons, kinetic lance, and the shotgun, just to be on the safe side. Then I jack up my PA to 100 decibels. We're about to be underwater, boys, so why don't you surrender now and call it a day? They turn as one, and I realize my mistake. I should have shot them from behind. Chapter 2. 5 Ark androids raise their arms to fire, while the 6th continues to burn through the vault door. I light off the kinetic lance and dodge to the side as superheated plasma vaporizes the air where I was a second before. The stone facade shatters, and the wood underneath bursts into flames. They keep firing as I move back into the lobby and break line of sight. You know, you're not doing yourself any favors, Legion. Why would you run an op in a city you know I'm in? I ask. The multi-barrel launcher on my shoulder reconfigures into a 4-barrel Gatling gun. 2 of them step out of the doorway, their hands flip up at the wrist, revealing the barrels of built-in plasma guns. You are inconsequential, they all say as one. I fire off the M-drive, lifting up in the air. The Gatling spits tungsten balls, blasting a hole through the first one before switching targets and destroying the second one a millisecond later. A high-pitched whine draws my attention, and I see the side door of the van wide open and a mounted plasma gun like a tank barrel sticking out the side. It lights up and fires. The building explodes in fire and debris. Alarms wail louder than the storm as the temperature spikes to 1,000 degrees in a second. Amelia, they have hit us with a coat of plasma, which sticks to the armor. It is burning hotter with every passing second. The ceiling collapses, raining down wooden beams the size of trees, along with plaster, stone, and lots of rain. I pushed up, straining against one such beam as the alarms ring in my ear. Shut them off! I growl as I manage to exert enough leverage to stand. The beam falls and the building shakes. I stand in ground zero of a collapse, as if the weapon imploded the room, sucking everything at me. 1,500 degrees. Secondary fires are lighting, but the rain pouring in is enough to control them. I shake my head, push another beam off me, and shove through the debris until I'm out of the rubble and standing in the rain on top of the remains of the lobby. It's like someone used giant hands to crush it into a snowball around me. The rain is really coming down, and it's having no effect on the glowing, burning plasma sticking to the armor. This could be a problem. Can we launch Lockheed to track them? I ask. The section of armor he is stored in is covered in the same burning plasma. Dang, I mutter. With a great degree of effort, I manage to stumble down from the pile of collapsed building and make my way back to the street. The van is gone, along with any trace of Ark. I don't think they achieved their goal, unless their goal was to try and kill me. 2,000 degrees. Right. The wind is crazy, clocking in at almost 200 miles an hour. The water runs through the streets like a river, and I don't see a living soul as far as my sensors can detect. We need a place with a halon fire suppression system. What have you got? I ask Epic. 2 blocks west, there is a book warehouse. It will likely have a halon system. "Hit it!" I shout. I take 2 steps and punch the M drive. The wind batters me around like a pinball, knocking me sideways and through street signs as we hurtle toward the warehouse. Without power, there is no way to know for sure. Well, let's not crash through the roof and set the place on fire then. I set the armor down outside the front door. Rain hisses as it evaporates around me. The same with the water running at my feet. At this temperature, the concrete sags. If it wasn't for the deluge of rain, everything within 20 feet of me would be on fire. One of the levees has given way. A wall of water 4 feet high will hit this section of town in 30 seconds. The alarm warbles as the burning plasma gel approaches 2,500 degrees. If we go in, the heat will destroy the books, or the water will follow us in and destroy the books. Right, but... I run to the right, away from where the water is coming, and around the side of the building. Every step hisses as more water turns to steam. Once around the side of the building, I see what I'm after. A chain-link wall with the fire suppression system mounted externally in large red cylinders. 15 seconds. If you do not extinguish the flames before the water hits, you will not be able to. I know! I charge forward. The fence softens with the heat, and I'm able to push right through it. 5 seconds. Almost every external weapon system is offline because of the heat. I shoot my arm forward, and the Sword of Doom extends right into the first cylinder. It explodes in a cloud of colorless gas, and the burning plasma instantly extinguishes. 2 seconds later, I'm hit with a hammer as a wall of water washes through the alley and throws me sideways, bouncing off the pavement and walls. The world is a mess of darkness and upside-down cars. I scramble along the road until I'm able to grip the pavement with the sword. A few seconds later, the flow subsides until I can stand up. I retract the sword and fire up the M drive. Once I'm in the air, I turn toward the vault they were trying to rob. Because of the crazy wind and torrential downpour, I can't see anything and have to rely on sensors. Anything? No, there are too many moving objects, too much interference. It is impossible to track where they went. I land us back at the vault, splashing down in 3 feet of water. The entrance is completely collapsed, but Epic finds a tunnel through the debris. Maybe I can figure out what they were after, even if they got away. The vault doors were sliced in half, and inside were 2 walls of safety deposit boxes. They were all from 2 feet wide to 6 inches. Only one box was open. Open and empty. What could they possibly have wanted from such a small box? Chapter 3. Madisun Dumas's head was tilted down, her eyes pointed straight at the ground to avoid making eye contact with any of the men who were escorting her and the dozen other girls from the brothel to the warehouse where they would await transportation ahead of the storm. Sirens had warbled in the air for the last 3 hours as the city tried to desperately evacuate the residents before the biggest storm ever recorded slammed squarely into New Orleans. It was the perfect cover to move girls along the circuit to the next city. In all the confusion over the storm, and with every pimp in the city using the service to change things up, it was easy for the woman known as the Wraith to slip into the line of young women. With her powers hyped far beyond what they had ever been, the entity that possessed her easily molded her features to that of a much younger, less physically threatening girl. Even a month after France and the final destruction of ISO-1, Maddie had more than enough strength from the Thune and space dogs she'd killed there. The men moving them grunted in the direction of a beat-up school bus. The girls, having been conditioned since their kidnapping, didn't argue. They simply kept their heads down in order to avoid accidentally pissing off their current pimp. The bastards had a system where they told the girls how much money they were worth. If the girls just worked hard enough, they could be free. Of course, it was a lie. The slightest disobedience would incur a penalty. Looking at the wrong man could result in a girl owing thousands more dollars. Maddie resisted the urge to kill them all here. She could, easily. They had the girls dressed in very inappropriate clothing for the weather, cut-offs and yoga pants, t-shirts and tank tops, no jackets, coats, or outerwear of any kind. The girls were soaked to the bone and shivering as they boarded the bus. What girl would run away in the middle of a massive hurricane dressed like they were? Maddie had seen this often as she went after the gangs, cartels, and organizations that trafficked in human beings. The psychological, physical, and environmental control they exerted left their poor victims helpless. Normally, she struck at the gangs when they were recruiting, since it was easier to find a Romeo than a brothel. However, that was before a certain handsome Phoenix PD detective was willing to slip her inside information. This ring was suspected, but the local police either didn't have enough evidence to get a warrant, or they were paid off to ignore it. Either way, she wasn't the police. She took a seat in the back of the bus, next to a young girl with long, straight blonde hair and bright blue eyes. She looked about 20 pounds too light and had several fresh red stripes on her shoulder and back. Someone had whipped her. She struggled to stay calm as 6 men with guns climbed on the bus after them. The diesel engine fired up, and the bus lurched to a start. Rain blocked all visibility as they drove through the city to their destination. If Maddie understood it right, they would mix the girls up and then send them out to different cities from there. The storm would keep the police from stopping them, and no one would look a second time at a bus full of people fleeing a hurricane. She looked out the window, distracting herself by going over her plan and how she would escape if needed.
"You could just kill all but one, and then force him to take you to the right place,"
Spice said from the seat in front of her. It was occupied by 2 girls who huddled next to each other, leaving just enough room for the apparition to sit on her knees facing backward and resting on her elbows on the back of the seat. Spice was dressed in a very proper Catholic schoolgirl outfit. Maddie narrowed her eyes at the bloodthirsty demon and replied in a whisper, "Too many what-ifs. My plan will work. Don't worry, Spice. Fine dining is coming your way," she said with a grin. Spice mirrored her grin, but with a dark maliciousness that the real Sarah would never have worn. Spice was Maddie's nickname for her younger sister, which was how the being inside her chose to appear. After over a year with her companion, it was second nature to call her that. All the death and destruction Maddie had wrought with her hands, the eagerness in her little sister's face to kill, unnerved her. There were days she wished her companion didn't use her sister's visage, but she had as much control over the Wraith as the girls in the bus had over their life. None. A tree branch hit the side of the bus, eliciting terrified shrieks from the women. One of the guards snarled at them to shut up, and they quickly became quiet. The bus turned onto a side road and drove through a gate on a chain-link fence. A shadowy figure closed the gate behind them. The warehouse they pulled up beside blocked some of the wind and rain, letting Maddie see her surroundings. There were 5 squat buildings, all of them run down and abandoned, perfect for the illicit trade. The bus she was in stopped next to a pair of large bay doors on the first warehouse they came to. A tall, muscular man in a white shirt and North Face rain jacket came out, waving a pistol like it was a pointer. Inside the bus, the guards reacted. All but one got off the bus, and the last one walked to the back to make sure there were no girls hiding while they got unloaded. No one had to be told what to do. They stood up, row by row, exiting the bus with their heads down and mouths shut. Maddie was in the last row. She stood up when it was her turn, making sure she was the very last person. The girls shuffled off the bus ahead of her. She went slightly slower, building a gap. The man behind her was either bored or didn't care, because when the girl in front of her stepped down off the bus, Maddie was 10 feet behind. Then he noticed. "Get a move on," he growled. Maddie cracked her neck, relieving the tension that had built up there. She lifted her foot up to walk, but instead spun and lashed out, landing her heel in his gut with the strength of a charging bull elephant. His pelvis shattered on impact and his spine snapped. He didn't fly directly back, instead ricocheting off the green bench seats and spinning 3 times before landing on the hard floor. She stepped on his back, then reached down and twisted his head around backward to make sure he was dead. A quick search revealed no guns, but he had a 3-inch knife. A predatory smile grew on her face. Time to get to work. Hustling, she moved off the bus to catch up to the last girl before her absence was noticed. If not for the storm, it would have been an obvious gap. As it was, she just looked like she'd fallen behind in the driving rain. "Where's Paul?" the man in the white shirt asked her. Without looking up, she pointed back to the bus and then continued past him. Inside the warehouse, there were maybe 50 silent girls. No one had a phone, no one spoke. They sat against the far wall on discarded boxes and did their best to remain unnoticed by the dozen guards in the room. A handful of lights shone down from above, but there were more than enough shadows for what she needed to do. She found a spot between a redhead and a dark-skinned Asian girl and leaned against the wall. Inwardly, she grinned as she counted the men, memorized their features, and examined them for hidden weapons. Know thine enemy. The man came stumbling back into the warehouse, his face as white as his shirt. He leaned over, grasping his knees, and vomited.
"What the hell, Terry?"
another asked.
It's Paul. He's dead,"
Terry finally spat out. That turned every head in the warehouse. A lightning strike nearby caused the lights to dim for a moment. Maddie struck. Her strength was greatly enhanced, so simply pushing off the wall sent her surging at high speed to the closest man. She hit him like a train, using her momentum to swing him around and let him fly at the next man in line. Before the two collided, she was already running for the third. She leaped in the air, landing on him with her feet driving into his neck and slamming his head against the concrete floor. As he died, they noticed. Her hand shot out, throwing the miniature knife with the force of a bullet. The blade struck the next one in the forehead, driving him backward. His gun went off with a crack, and the bullet bounced off the floor. 2 more went down before the remaining men opened fire, but it was far too late for them. Maddie vanished in a spark of dark blue light, emerging behind the farthest one who was still shooting into the shadow where she had vanished. She grabbed his neck from behind, crushing his windpipe, before taking the Tech-9 out of his hand and shooting the last 3 in rapid succession, each one catching a bullet in the forehead. She dropped the man she'd held up as a shield, putting the remaining dozen rounds into him until the gun clicked empty, and she tossed it on his body. That left Terry. He stepped back as her eyes found him, the pistol in his hand wavering as if he wasn't sure what he could do to stop her.
"Who are you?"
he whispered as he backed up to the door, his head swiveling back and forth as if he expected a monster to jump him from the side. Maddie turned to face him, letting her facade vanish to be replaced with her real self. In a moment, she wasn't the scared little girl they were transporting, but the Wraith. Her eyes flashed an inhumanly blue color as she pulled her trademark red scarf up around her mouth and nose.
"Oh, God,"
Terry muttered. He fired the gun until the slide locked back. Maddie strode toward him as the 9mm bullets impacted her flesh. It hurt like hell, but she was making a point. She slapped the gun out of his hand, then reversed the blow and sent him sliding across the floor to land in a heap against the wall. Another crack of thunder punctuated the rainfall outside. The storm grew worse by the moment, and she was running out of time to get the girls to safety. Normally, she would kill everyone, let her actions speak for her. However, with the storm, she was worried no one would find the bodies for months.
"It's your lucky day, Terry,"
she said as she sauntered up to him before kneeling down next to him with her elbows resting on her thighs. Her Wraith voice echoed around the room, seeming to come from every corner. He panicked, hyperventilating as he lost control of his bodily functions. She sneered in distaste.
"Tell everyone what happened here. Tell them death is coming for those who prey on the innocent. You're the Wraith, but you don't let people live?"
he whined. She reached out and patted him on the cheek.
"You even so much as jaywalk, and I won't."
His eyes went wide as she slid her hand up and slammed his head against the wall, knocking him out. It took her a few minutes to organize the girls, who were too stunned at the change of events to react. Pushing them, she hurried them back onto the bus. Adding the girls she arrived with and the ones who were already in the warehouse, the decrepit school bus was filled to the brim. Before they left, she dragged the dead man off the bus and tossed him unceremoniously into a puddle. This was the worst place in New Orleans to be when a storm hit, and this one felt bad. She climbed in after the last girl, started up the engine, and pushed the gas all the way to the floor. The diesel roared to life and sluggishly moved them farther and farther away from the danger zone. She needed to get the girls out of town, preferably out of Louisiana, before she could be sure they would be safe. "Happy?" she asked Spice. She didn't see the little demon, but she knew from experience she was there, watching.
"I'd be happier if you could find us some more space dogs to kill," she said with a grin.
Another bolt of lightning struck nearby, and the passengers screamed as a tree fell, and Maddie had to swerve to miss hitting it.
"This is a bad storm," she said instinctively.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?